Well, I ground the weld out as good as I'm going to do it. That's my little piece of railroad track I'm going to use to hold this up when I paint. But I ran a tap through all the holes. I can't stress this whenever you work on an old car. Run a tap through all the bolt holes, no matter what. Save yourself some aggravation at the end of the day. Even if you're like changing a water pump, run a tap through the bolts in the engine, run a tap through the bolts in the front of the water pump where the fan attaches. Even if it's a new or rebuilt water pump, I've seen those threads messed up. Just kind of a given when you work on old, cars in general. Just run a tap through all your bolt holes before you start putting things together. It just makes life a lot easier. You can see where the undercoating burned off from the where the weld was. You can see a little bit of the weld there. But I'll take some seam sealer on this brace before I re-undercoat it, and I'll have to get under here with a putty knife and scrape all the loose burned stuff off. So when I'm done with the inside, I'll get the car up on jack stands and I'll seal all the weld beads so they don't leak water. And I did check them. I did spray them and check them for leaks. And if they did leak, I did re-weld them a little bit. So it's all looking good. You can see the driver's side floor pan. Floor pan's all painted up. Put the wire cover on. I'm going to put that body plug back in, then I'm going to put that carpet back and maybe pull up the front carpet or just, I don't know. It's actually, I don't want to pull a gas pedal and a bunch of stuff, and I think I'll just put some oil on that little bit of surface rust that's underneath this side. It's nothing major. So I'll just let some oil soak into it and wipe it up, and that'll protect that. Getting it back together, I got a brush over there and a bucket of soapy water. I'm going to clean these mats up, but I just wanted to show the worst rust in the front. I'm not pulling this out. It's no rust through. There's a body plug missing, but that's the surface rust I was talking about that's just kind of underneath. And I beat it and it doesn't go through, so I'm just going to oil it. And why I oil rust is over the past 40 years I've tried every product under the sun to stop rust. That Por 15, I've tried acids, you name it, I've tried it. And the best thing to put an end to rust continuing is good old-fashioned motor oil. We'll get that oiled up and clean up the mats and get it ready to put the seats back in. I'm waiting for the paint for the package tray still. If I don't have it by, say, Wednesday, I will go elsewhere. There's no excuse to have to wait a week for a can of paint for that, and most places can mix it while you stand there and wait. So the place I always have dealt with in the past, up by my dad's house, I'll get it from there Wednesday or Thursday if they don't have it by then. I want to show the passenger side floor too before I put the sill plates on and clean everything out. This floor is as clean as it gets. I mean, that's still the paint on there. That body plug is out on that side, but that's not why it got rust there. The reason why it got rust there is the mat has a little split there that allowed water to go through. So if you're not getting in here with snow-covered shoes and water in here, that's not going to get any more moisture on it. It's not going to rust anymore. But I cleaned it up really well and oiled it, and so I think that will be all good. While I'm scrubbing the mats, I hadn't cleaned them since I had the car with the intentions of doing it when the seats were out. So I'm scrubbing away at it. I'm not putting the seat belts back in, so those holes in the mat will be there, but they're under the front seat so they won't be too noticeable, unless you're sitting in the back seat and the front seats move forward. But this is just your basic warm water with some vinegar and dish soap. I find the old school methods of cleaning work the best, and hopefully this will, with the seats reupholstered, will get the old car smells out of the car. It did smell like an old car when the windows were up and the windows were down. It didn't smell like an old car. But old cars have their own unique smell. It's kind of a neat smell. I kind of like it. But with the new seats and everything being done, we're going to get the old car smell out of it. That cleaned it up a lot. The water's kind of got a brown hue to it. So, yeah, it looks good. You can still see, like, what you can see here is like where the dye has worn off the matte, and that's black showing through. So that's kind of, you know, if you really wanted to look like new, you'd want to re-dye or refinish this. But I think it's fine. You can see a Pontiac emblem there and a part number there. So that's the rear mat part number. The front one's on the other side. So anyway, like I say, these holes are going to exist. And another thing too that I've learned a long time ago, when you have little cracks in this stuff, the best thing to stick that back together to prevent it from going further is super glue. You just lift it up and put it on the edge. You don't want to get it on the top surface, and then just stick it back together, and that actually works pretty good. I've done that in the past with other cars I've had. You know, it's just from trial and error that I've figured some of these things out. So, you know, after working on these cars for almost 40 years, you kind of figure some shortcuts out on things. But yeah, it's clean. Like I say, you know, there's a little bit of color worn off, which is pretty typical for something that's almost 60 years old. It's amazing that they're still in there, that there's still floor pans in there, that the car still exists. So we'll get to cleaning the other side and put the other sill plate on and finish up, and then it'll be close to being ready for the seats. I got to put the side panels back on, but I got to get the package tray in first. So that's the way it's going. Well, the floor mat's about as clean as it's going to get. Looks pretty darn good. I mean, you can still see like some of the wear from where the finishes come off. There's the part number on the front mat. So yeah, looks good. The carpet looks like brand new. So we're getting there. I'm going to clean up the rear panels. Clean these panels all up. Those side panels cleaned up like new. Those are just sitting on top of one another, so I'm going to set this one in there too. But yeah, it cleaned up nice. They look like brand new. It's pretty much all ready for the seats. I do have to paint that and get that back in before I can put the side panels and stuff, and then the tar paper that goes down there. So it's looking good. The mat came up pretty darn nice. I think it looks a little better. I don't know if it looks better in video or in person, but in person it looks pretty darn good. I mean, it is pushing 60 years old, so you know, it was designed. These cars weren't designed to last 60 years. GM made these cars to be used and scrapped, and so you'd buy a new one. They didn't make them to last forever. So I think it looks pretty darn good considering the age of the car. Floor pan repair is nice and solid. No movement in the floor. So looking good. So if you would, please subscribe to my videos, and thank you for watching my videos.